Tim, will you logged in on the phone and Zoom?
Yes.
Yes, you will.
Yes.
Mr. Eastwood, and Ms. Good? Good? I'm going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners Board meeting this April 20, 2021. It is 5:02 p.m. I'm asking everyone if you please rise to the invitation by Mr. Burdett and the main stage for playing music.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, Lord, that you're with us, Lord, and among us. Lord, we pray that the decisions made tonight and the things we talk about are glorifying you in some way, Lord. And I pray that you be with everyone that's here tonight, concerned about their county, Lord, and just be with them in their hearts. And I know everybody's out for the good of everything, Lord, and I pray you bless everyone. And Lord, just be with us through this virus. It's been a challenge, and just thankful that it seems like we're coming out of it, Lord, and I pray that we continue to do so. Lord, we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item forward of the agenda is consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. Do we have any corrections or additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, based on our conversation early today, we are requesting that we postpone items 9 through 14 until the May 18th agenda. And this is so that at that May 18th agenda, we can provide an opportunity for a public hearing, public input to be based so that input could be heard and considered by the board prior to any action.
Seems good. Any other adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, at the request of Commissioner Loper, we have an appearance tonight from Ms. Phyllis Sherrills, who would like to speak about some issues along Rock and Stillwell Road intersection. So before we begin, we can allow her 5 minutes to speak on that issue.
Would we get, just before we do our consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion, and after we vote on that, I'd like to make a statement.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda with the deletions or the withdrawals from the agenda as mentioned by,
Yes, and with Ms. Phyllis Sherrills as a speaker.
including Ms. Phyllis Sherrills.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second. Second. Okay. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdett. All in favor say aye. All opposed no. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make one quick statement here. This is just my opinion, but as far as the ordinances here, I would really like to see the board not consider the landfills for conditional use under AR under any circumstance. I don't want to see that come back up. I don't think we have an initial problem with our solid waste program right now. And I just think since there's not an initial problem, there's no rush to do anything at this point. So I'd really like to see it go away and not come up again. To say I've heard from numerous citizens is an understatement the last 2 weeks. I've had many conversations, but I just If there was a problem, I think it would be justified to look into it. I just don't feel that we do. That's just my personal opinion. And we could look at it again at some point later on down the road, but my opinion, I would like to see it not come back up. Of course, to the citizens, you can currently apply for a landfill in industrial use as of today, and it's always been that way. So we're not saying that someone cannot make application for a landfill. That's not what I'm saying here. But I'm just stating that I don't want to see it come up in AR zoning as a conditional use. I've spoken with Commissioner Kiefer before the meeting. He shares my same opinion. He is going to be a few minutes late, and he said I was allowed to state his stance. And that's my statement. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'd like to make a statement as well, to piggyback on that. I agree with the statement that was just made by Commissioner Deloach. I think it's a better idea that if there is a need, we reach out to the public first, and we get that information out to everybody first, and let everybody have a chance to see what we're doing, why we're doing it. And it's not a normal process. Normally, you can place an application and move forward or rezone or anything that you want. Something of this magnitude, I think everybody needs to be involved. Everybody has a stake here in Effingham County. Everybody loves this county and has the best interest, and we do too. We really work hard to do that. But, I think before you consider an AR or anything, we establish, like you said, a reason for it, and start at the base level, move slowly, if it's ever even a consideration. Do we have a problem now? Do we have a problem 5 years from now? Do we have a problem 10 years from now? If we do, then we need to start reaching out to everybody and let them know what that problem is and then go from there. Nobody tried to do anything underhanded, or it's just a normal application we got to put forward. We're trying to handle it the best way we can, and that's the one reason why we're postponing everything tonight. We want everybody to have a chance to take a look at things.
I concur also.
Thank you.
I'm on board too.
The one thing that I would add as a caveat, I think we're all on board with what you all have shared. We did request an update on our solid waste disposal plan. And in that plan is part of the research to determine what is the need in this area. If anyone makes application now or in the future, they have to comply with that plan. It may say we don't need one. We don't know. And so truthfully, I think the board needs to recognize there's a lot we don't know, we have to learn. And so what I had discussed with our manager and a couple of the board individually, that it would probably be wise to have we're going to have a public hearing on solid waste. And those who are here tonight for the landfill discussion, I would like to advance that, even though there'd be another discussion if it was brought back up, by the application. Because if someone makes an application, we have to consider it. That's not an option. So what I would like to do is, in about less than 30 days, come back with a hearing that's not required by law, where we can, part of our solid waste disposal plan is, but include that, the input from all the constituents, the engineers, the river keepers, that can show us why we should not have this, so we can start developing an understanding. Is it necessary? What does it do? And so forth. And that'll be a preliminary discussion before we ever would even possibly consider an application in the future. Once again, we don't determine whether people make applications, we can determine whether they move forward or not. So we have a motion to approve the agenda with those items removed. In the second, we have a couple of statements to let you know we're going to make sure we move methodically to look at the solid waste plan. And we won't move forward any faster than our ability to study the need for our community first before we consider those things. Okay? So a motion and a second. All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. And welcome the public tonight. I know many of you came looking to maybe comment on some of the agenda items. We're going to give a broader opportunity to do that. So we'll have more time to receive input individually and have public hearings and a workshop on our solid waste disposal plan that'll be public in the next 3 weeks. So I hope you'll participate in that as well. With that, we'll move to our minutes. Consideration to approve the March 16th minutes, 2021. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve
Second.
Motion by Mr. Locust, second by Mr. Deloche to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. Once again, welcome to our public tonight on the agenda item. You're welcome to comment on those items. We ask you to keep your comments to a couple of minutes. It helps us keep the meeting moving and gives everyone a chance that would like to comment, have an opportunity to comment. And we'll try to be flexible with that as much as possible. All the agenda items were in the clerk's office on our website. Hope you got a chance to review those and are prepared for any comments when those agenda items come up tonight. With that, we're going to move to our opportunity for Ms. Phyllis Sherrouse, if she would. That's all here. That really see you in the front.
First of all, I want to thank y'all for allowing me to come. What I'm here for is a much smaller scheme than what some of these folks are here for, but it's a very important scheme for me and my family. I am Phyllis Sherrouse. I know most of you know who I am, but my husband Harry and I have lived on Stillwell Road for 47 years. Our property is directly across from Mock Road. Mock Road is a county road that connects 119 north to the Stillwell Road. When we first moved there 47 years ago, it was a dirt road and not a whole lot of traffic. If you don't think it's traffic today, I invite you any day to come and visit us, and you will see how much it is used. And it's used great because once it was paved, folks from Clio, folks from South Carolina use it quite a lot to cut through, then go down to the Log Landing Road when they're going to Rincon. Now with the new Augusta Road paved, that's great access to Savannah, but when you're just going to Rincon, this bypasses a lot of congestion. But what I'm here to ask you for is if you would consider, and I'll tell you why I'm asking, consider putting some, I call them speed strips. I think the proper name, I was told by Harry, is rumble strips. But it's the strips that help you slow down. At the end of Mock Road is about 2 miles paved. But there's a stretch when you come off of 119 and coming down Mock Road of about a half of a mile that it's a straight stretch. So it allows folks to speed, I won't say they're speeding, but to speed up more. And so unfortunately there have been quite a number of times that people forget that the big red sign says stop, and it does mean to stop. And you have, as county commissioners, the road department has signs across right by our property that has the big black lines on it with reflectors all around it, but they fail to see it. The first incident that we had was before we even had pine trees or even our fence up. We had a young lady that went through it about 7 o'clock one morning on her way to Air National Guard. She was coming through Clio. She went through the stop sign. At that time we had cows. It was a Sunday morning. Harry was in his office studying Sunday school, and we had a knock at the back door, and she had come through the fence, killed 2 of our cows that had all congregated up in the corner. So that was the first incident. The second incident was one afternoon, about 2:30. I was inside, heard a lot of commotion, thought someone had had a wreck, looked out the window, and there was this big green customized van making a very fast turn around in the pasture, getting back out and going towards Springfield, not stopping, and I had a fence knocked down. We have white, at this time we have white vinyl 3-slatted fence and some quite old ornamental fence and gate going into our yard. So the fence was knocked down. So that was the second incident that we had. Then another incident we had, someone came through, hit a pine tree. The law had to be called to cut them out because when we got up there the next morning, the pine tree was cut so nice with the chainsaw and limbs everywhere. The next time was at the beginning of last year, no, near the end of last year, someone came through the stop. These are just incidents that we know of. Came through the stop sign, hit the telephone box that's out front, demolished it, and a new telephone box had to be put. But I guess the straw that broke the camel's back, you might say, was in December when a gentleman who drives the road quite a lot did not stop. It was foggy. I will give him, this was about 8:45 in the morning. It was very foggy. I'll give him that benefit. if he would have had the rumble strips there, he would have realized the stop sign was coming up. He went through the stop sign, looked up, and there was a school bus fixing to T-bone him. On the other side of him, the school bus was coming from Stillwell. On the other side, there was a gentleman in a large four-door white Ram truck heading towards Stillwell, and he had to swerve off. The gentleman thought he could get down our driveway and not hit the bus, which I'm glad he did, because I'm afraid if he would have gone straight, he would have probably could have been killed or hurt very bad. Because of that, some over 150-year-old fence and gates were demolished, which were very expensive, to say the least, to have fixed and put back up, but they have been put back up as of last week, and we're very happy. But my concern is one day someone is going to be hurt because of not stopping. It gets on them quicker than they realize it. And I would just like to ask if y'all would consider these speed strips, rumble strips rather, down so that someone would be able to realize the stop sign is coming. It is a very heavily used road. I know neighbors will not be happy at first, but they will get used to it. And it could save somebody's life. And so that's what I'm here for today. I guess I'm here because I've had it with people not stopping. And I don't want someone to get hurt. I really don't. And I'm afraid that that's going to happen. So I would just appreciate you taking this into consideration and looking at this. So.
You got me convinced, Ms. Phil.
Well, yeah,
There are no rumble strips at all leading up to that stop sign?
there's nothing.
Okay, yeah, I think we can turn that to our county manager to look at that with our sheriff, and we've got to dig us. There should be no legal problem with putting rumble strips, particularly the accidents you've had, and may even need a street light there or something. They got stop signs now that have the little lights that reflect more too. Maybe more we need than the rumble strips.
Well, I think rumble strips would be a great start.
That would be a great start.
That would be a great start, and I think it would help people realize they're coming up to it, you know.
It's a very
So.
expensive fix to, it's not a very
Anyway.
serious intersection. Yeah.
And the only thing I'll mention, and we're going to take a look at this, and actually when you repave a road, which we did to Mock Road, the speeding gets worse, right? And so, and we had a similar situation on Shawnee that I think we started off with did we put a flashing sign there, or was it simply a large stop ahead sign before the stop came in?
We put a large stop sign on each side of the road.
Okay. And so the one concern that you have is with the neighbors who are in front of, if there's a house in front of where the rumble strips are. But we can look at several options to increase the safety at that intersection.
I
And we've done
appreciate
it
it.
several times.
They will get used to the rumble strips. I live next to the railroad track for
Okay.
quite some times, and the train didn't run over me but a couple nights, and then I
One thing
realized.
about The country, nobody is right beside the road pretty much, which helps a lot. You know, more of a subdivision, you do have that, because you're within 60 to 100 feet of that. But you're,
But we've got multiple options
Yeah.
or we can do all of the above, right?
Well-
Depending on the safety of the intersection. So
I suppose we appreciate your time.
You're welcome. I appreciate you letting me come. Thank you. Y'all have a very good afternoon.
You too. Thank you for making us aware. All right, thank you so much. We'll move to our consent agenda. There are several items on our consent agenda, so if you be patient as I try to hold this back from my eyes for us so I can see it and read through it and receive the motion. First item on the consent agenda is consideration for the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to ratify and affirm a submittal of an application to the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, that's CJCC. It's Accountability Court Funding Program for Drug Court. That's item one. Number two of the consent agenda is an application, consideration for the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to ratify and affirm a submittal of an application to the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, that's CJCC again, Accountability Court Funding Program for Mental Health Court. Next item is a grant. Item three, consideration to accept a grant award from GEMA, Local Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG program. Item number four is an agreement, consideration to approve an MOU between the Sexual Response Assault Response Team and the Effingham County Correctional Institute for Forensic Examination Services. Item number 5 is a consideration to approve, publish, and distribute Section 6.15 seatbelt use of the Human Resource Standard Practice. Item number 6 is a resolution, consideration to approve a resolution of surplus property. And you have your list of that on the agenda. Item number 7, work order, consideration to approve submission of work order number 2 to First Tyson Financial Advisors related to T-SPLOS. Item number 8, on the policy, consideration to approve to amend section 2.16, email, internet, and computer use of the Effingham County Human Resource Standards of Practice. Item number 9, considering, this is a policy again, consideration to approve to amend section 6.07, workers' compensation of the Effingham County Human Resource Standards of Practice. And item number 10, the last item of the consent agenda, is consideration to approve to accept a grant award from the Georgia Trauma Commission for EMS equipment. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And those items stand approved. Move to old business. We have one item under old business. It's a second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Freddie H. Mitchell to rezone 3.06 acres out of 13.6 acres, 0.06 acres, located at 205 White Branch Drive from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of 2 lots. That's map number 393, parcel number 8A in the 4th district. Do you have a motion to approve the second reading?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Reading amendment carries unanimously. Move to our new business. Item number 1 is a sketch plan. Consideration to approve an application by Curran and Company LLC as agents for for a sketch plan for Old Augusta Commerce Center, a commercial warehouse complex located at Old Augusta Road and Chimney Road, zone I-1.
So we have sketch plan submission. This is the visual up there on the screen. This has gone through the planning board and they have recommended approval. The sketch plan process involves submitting the sketch plan and staff reviewing it. We don't make conditions as such. At the end of the process, we'll issue a notice to proceed and include any recommendations or any, not quite conditions, but any comments that have come up in the process. So that's included in the staff report that's in your packet. And that can take the presentation.
Sounds good. We've got some preliminary discussions as well. Sketch plans, that's good.
Good evening, thank you. Chad Zittrower with Kernan Company, here representing G&G Land Holdings, Kildare Land Company, P51 Properties, Yellow Pine Properties, as well as their development property, which is Beckdale Industrial, all of which are in attendance. As you're aware, this property was here before you back in October for a zoning request. We went through a series of meetings and hearings and felt like we came up with a pretty good list of development standards to incorporate. To go through a few of them, no traffic along Chimney Road, restricted access to Goshen Road. We are required to conduct a traffic study. Fencing in regards to around the truck courts, minimizing lighting, finished floor elevations, building heights limited to 50 feet above finished floor elevations. Buffers along Chimney, which consist of a 250-foot natural buffer and 50-foot wide berm with plantings on top. Restricted to noise, which is based upon the buffers that are proposed. Lights to all be downlit with no direct glare to the adjacent residences, and a maximum height of 26 feet. Some restrictions on the use, but do allow warehousing, which is what is currently proposed on the sketch plan. Some signage to be incorporated in regards to traffic flow along the corridor. And then just some notifications in regards to everything comply with local ordinances and Corps of Engineers and local and state and federal regulations. The sketch plan before you, in our opinion, complies with all of those requests. There are no variances or anything that we're presenting. The buffers are there, the protection to Chimney Road, the access is all as was mentioned in the zoning criteria. With that being said, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding the project for myself or any other member of the development team.
Appreciate it. I did spend some time with the Chad, the development team and our staff to review the sketch plan. I think it can cause a lot of things to comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one issue that I've been able to speak with some of you about, and that's the concerns on the roadway. The roadway, as you can see, will connect Goshen Extension to Old Augusta Road, and the pavement thickness on it, based on county maintaining it, will be based on, this is after speaking with the developer, will be based on the results of soil tests and the traffic volume information from the traffic study, and that will in turn determine what's called the equivalent semi-axle loading, or the easel level, to determine the thickness and the pavement strength. So that generally, with the guideline of that life of the road based on the study that they do, will give the road a, how many year? 20-year life. So there was just some concern about the county taking over the road, what the standard was built to, and that's what we will have it engineered to, and we will have the third-party inspectors certify that it's built to those standards.
And Tim, to my understanding, one reason we would definitely consider this is that we're going to restrict, as you mentioned, truck traffic to 21.
To Goshen.
But it opens it up to vehicle traffic where it becomes a necessary, something should happen on Augusta, we need to reroute traffic. It gives us another access to 21, so emergencies and so forth. I like the idea of having that road available to us, as long as it's built to the standards. We have 20 years of, good traffic.
That's correct. It's restricted to trucks, but we'll have no restrictions to passenger vehicles.
So,
Another question, how will we restrict the trucks and come up with a good way to be able to do that?
That's being incorporated in the traffic study, will be part of the development plans. Obviously, there'll be signage and things of that nature, but as far as in detail, it's going to be a narrow road section. We're 36 foot wide going through the primary development. Goshen Road Extension is about 20 feet wide currently, so it'll narrow down at that location. But we'll also implement some sort of turnaround mechanism, so if somebody gets to that location, they can exit back out.
any other questions or comments? I entertain a motion for alternative one, which is to approve the sketch plan.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Roach, second by her, 2 seconds. I think Mr. Loper was allowed, so I'll take these. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 2, consideration to approve a striker quote. This is number 103-15592 in the amount of $199,549.55 for the purchase of life pack monitors and various EMS related items.
Yes, sir. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. So Effingham County EMS does currently have the budget to purchase 5 new LifePak 15 cardiac monitors. As you said, Stryker did submit the quote, which also includes a $20,000 credit for the monitors that were surplus previously. So staff is recommending alternative 1.
Okay. Any questions or discussions? Any questions, Ms. Allison?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve alternative 1 by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Any carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Annexations are number 3. Consideration to approve, support a notice of annexation petition requesting annexation of approximately 31.31 acres into the city of Guyton.
Mr. Chairman, staff received a certified letter requesting annexation of the property as outlined. You have information in your packet, which includes,
We can reflect that on the screen.
can we put it on the screen? We have to bring it over
And
to
I can
my
go right
screen.
here if you don't have it. Just things I'm going to point out.
Okay.
How did you change
So
it?
staff has provided an aerial photo, which does show that there are areas that lie within the municipality of the city of Dayton, but is not contiguous with this particular
That
property.
was my question. I didn't see it was contiguous.
Yes, sir, it is not contiguous. We did discover that after the application was received. So I'm not sure how the board wishes to handle that.
Well, I certainly would hear from the viewers making the application tonight if they want to discuss with us, but I'm often concerned about non-contiguous annexation, creating spot annexation that you're in the city, you're out of the city, in the county, out of the county.
Mr. Chairman, Toss Allen, representing Sean Barlow. And I don't know the answer to how the nebulous of this. Mr. Barlow and Mr. Sawyer had met and had kind of teed this up. They asked me to get involved. I think I went to 3 meetings before they finally sent it here, and I never saw the paperwork until it was sent here. It's clearly not contiguous. There's some other areas that aren't contiguous with the city, there as well. And I believe, and I'm certainly not an expert, that when there's 100% annexation, as long as the 2 parties agree, the city and county, it's treated for the process anyhow as being contiguous. Now, if you don't like the fact that it's not, then that would obviously be non-agreement, and that wouldn't work. But so anyhow, they're just trying to annex the property to build a single-family subdivision. There is water adjacent to or on the property there. Guyton has expressed at least an interest in allowing them to use that water. It seemed like a natural fit to just, put it in the city as well. So, we're just, asking for your consideration for that annexation petition.
Yeah, I want to make a couple of comments, and Lee, I'm going to ask you to correct me if I'm wrong. You can say, okay. My concern with us moving forward with a non-contiguous piece of property is that there'll be residents that will be buying that property that will have municipal taxes. That I don't know that we need to have municipal taxes if they're not getting any other services other than water and sewer. And the water and sewer has already been agreed upon. It's the water, that's what we use service delivery. So they have the water and sewer area. And so there's no competition there. Guyton has it, they're going to provide the water and sewer. To me, you start down this road of a spot annexation. I know we've got some areas, and I think Mr. Allen is correct. I remember that problem in Lincoln where we had unincorporated areas and incorporated areas in the middle. We were trying to clean that up. It causes issues. I'm pretty sure from conversation with Russ that the council's not pushing this annexation. So I don't know why we would want to not in the future just try to clean up and not have it where it's not contiguous. So for not being contiguous, it's not holding up. I don't think Mr. Allen's holding up being developed, whether it's annexed or not. The water and sewer is resolved, right?
Yes, so there's not sewer in the area. They would develop it on septic anyhow was the plan. And I believe the property is currently zoned R1 in the county. So essentially they could do the same thing as long as they have water. I don't believe it would really affect the outcome of the project. It'd be half-acre lots either way.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to affect development, but seeing we're not affecting development, I would recommend to the board that we deny this annexation petition and let's make it always be contiguous would be my recommendation. But that's my comments. Any other questions or comments?
I agree with that. I'll make a motion to deny the annexation request due to the fact this is non-contiguous property.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Murphy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it's denied, but we're still our neighbor. We're still going to work with Guyton and try to encourage and strengthen them all we can. because when they succeed, our county succeeds. Item number 4, consideration to approve amendment number 3 to contract, should be full contract roadside surveying services with Brady Company LLC.
Yes, good evening again. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. So staff is requesting approval of amendment number 3 to the contract with McGrailey for roadside mowing, which will extend the contract for an additional 2 years. And they've requested a 10% contract increase as well. Staff is recommending alternative 1.
Okay, do you have any questions about this contract, discussion from the board?
Make motion to approve order number 1.
Commissioner, Mr. Luther, who's the second? Mr. Floyd, with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And alternative 1 passes.
Thank you.
Yes. Item number 5, new business, change order, consideration to approve change order number 1 with Copper Construction and comments for extension of 80 days for the new administration complex. This will be a little bit longer before you get your new office.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commission and the public. Before you is change order number 1 for the administration building renovations. As you'll see in the summary recommendation, there's nothing unusual about this when it comes to remodeling a building. As we've opened up the walls and gotten into the project, there was some need to make modifications to windows, doors, carpeting allowances, the areas to be recarpeted and removed, changes in our wiring plans for our data and our AV, our audiovisual, as well as the big one is the structural change. We ran into a structural problem with the building that we were unaware of, and we've got a solution for that, and it's well under construction. But those few items, and there'll be additional change orders, granted, but we wanted to get these in front of you so we could go ahead and amend the contract and get the cash flow going for the contractor as he's already working on these items. The items that are included in the packet has details for the different items. It explains what the scope is and the cost for each individual one. Cumulatively, it's $79,131.50. These additional things have caused additional time on the project, and so each one cumulatively is 80 days added to the construction time. So the new contract amount you'll see in the executive summary, it was $887,671. The new contract amount is $966,802.50. We did issue notice to proceed at the first of the year on January 4th with an estimated completion date of June 2nd, and with this additional extension, it'll be August 21st. And we would recommend approval of change order number 1.
Tim, will this add any change in our timeline with extension services?
When we spoke last time, we were taking consideration this additional 80 days. So this still puts the total. What's the end date now for all phases?
August 21st.
Yeah, so it still puts us in the timeline, a little bit ahead of the timeline I've given you, but I was being generous in case there's another need for another change order in the future.
Okay.
And I know some of the issues have been the supply chain of materials. Cost of materials going up because supplies and demand. And the supply board is out of the roof and you just can't get it. And so that's a lot of contract issues trying to get this completed.
On this particular project, just so you know, up to this point, and I'm knocking on every piece of wood I got, and I had a request of increase due to material cost changes. Now, we have had delays due to material delivery and that sort of thing, but no cost increases yet. And most materials are on site, so let's hope that won't happen.
And, and I want to remind our friends out here in the audience today that this is a great opportunity that we came into. Some of you don't not familiar what we're doing. We did buy the Renaissance Bank. It could have very easily, when they decided to close that operation down, been vacant for a long time. And we were able to secure that for a price probably half of what it would cost to build a commercial building. We were looking at, as you can see this complex here, Stephanie will have a heater in her room, so also have an air conditioning in their room because it's not only not ADA accessible, it's just, it's its issues. Even our chambers probably have trouble hearing us at times in life because of the sound systems and all that. We're all over, we should be able to consolidate our governments into one location as much as possible. And so instead of doing this for maybe $6 million, we may end up having something less than $3 million in a really wonderful administrative complex. We're excited about that project. We're all looking forward to getting over there and having some better chambers with better video and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of improvements. That's what we're talking about tonight. Okay. So we have a motion for alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, seconded by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And it carries.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on to the next item, if you'll look on the screen,
Yes.
I know we have a busy agenda tonight. I'm surprised nobody asked me what the status of it is, other than, how long is it going to take. So just real quickly, I don't have the ability to advance slides.
It's on Stephanie's.
Oh, Stephanie's got it, okay. And just real quickly, I'll just say next slide and just let you real quickly just jump through the slides. This is current construction as of Monday of the front lobby. You see the customer service counter and the elevator. On the next slide is the lobby of the administration building, which is on the second floor of the north building above the bank. Currently in just demolition phase at this point. This was a very minor remodel. On the next slide, the most significant thing in the administrative suite was the addition of ADA compliant bathrooms and a break room and additional storage, file storage on that floor. On the next slide is the commission chambers, big open space. What you're looking at will eventually be the platform in which you're sitting on now. That will start framing up next week. But this is from the entrance. This is the main, go ahead, I'm sorry. This is development services. This is on the first floor of the south building. And you can see the customer service counter and the doorway to that hallway of office suites. The next is the second floor. This is the lobby off the elevator on the second floor of the south building. If you can envision it, and it's hard to see in this picture, I can see it with my eyes closed. HR is on the right, health department's on the left, and finance is down the hall in the middle. And this will be their lobby. On the next slide, this is at the end of the hallway. That's Christie's desk right in the middle. We've already got you set up. That's the finance suite. And then on the last slide, just to show you, that you think the project's halfway done, but you still don't see drywall. These pictures, again, hard to see, but those are two load-bearing beams that had to be installed where we decided to move walls. And when you decide to move a wall that's holding the roof up on the building, it takes a little bit of time. And so it's hard to see, but there are two wooden structural beams in each of those photos that are now holding the roof and spanning an open space that was once a wall. And we, increased the size of the lobby for the citizens when they come in. And so that's what you're seeing here. And then we've already mentioned the dates. So that's the current status of the project.
Very good. Thank you. Looking forward to being with it. Any questions for Craig? All right, we'll move to item number 6, an agreement. Consideration to approve to award indefinite delivery contract for engineering and architectural services for the fiscal year 2022.
Okay, this one's me as well.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go into, and I'll be as brief as I can, but I do want to explain this process because it was a very complicated process. The purpose of the indefinite delivery contract for engineering and architectural services was to streamline the process and the time it took to procure the services of professional design consultants on our projects. We have a multitude of projects we want to do. The time process to advertise and select a consultant to do design work is quite lengthy, at least 90, if not 120 days from start to finish. So we took that 90 to 120 days and we did it once. And we did it through the indefinite delivery concept. What we prepared was an RFQ that requested a statement of qualifications from any interested firm in one of 12 areas, or as many of the 12 areas that they saw fit, and those are in the package. And I won't read them individually, but in that first table that's in your package, they range from civil roadway, civil engineering type of work, surveying, structural engineering, traffic engineering, environmental, geotechnical engineering, landscape architecture, architectural services, including new construction and renovations. As we just demonstrated with the first the previous item, our project needs vary with T-SPLOST, and with the other projects we're considering for SPLOST, and even current funded projects, we're doing everything from building renovation to new construction, both horizontally and vertically. And so what this allowed us to do was to get the qualifications of firms and their hourly rates of their key personnel, project managers, senior engineers, draftsmen, surveying crews, that sort of thing, and rank them based on, first on qualifications, and then to put their unit prices into a theoretical project, and then determine from that who would have been the cheapest firm for that project had we done this in a traditional bidding method. So again, 12 service categories. We allowed up to 5 pages of experience per category. So a firm that went after all 12 categories could have at least 60 pages or 60 different projects or more of experience, and we asked for relevant experience. Our responses did vary, and that's why I pointed that out, is we had some firms that fully utilized their 5 pages per experience with specific experience to projects just like ours. Others chose or elected to do a more generalized approach. They would give us a listing of projects, maybe 2 or 3 dozen or more projects by title only. Some gave us projects they considered an IDC contract with another community as an equivalent project, but yet that detail lacked the type of projects we were looking at. And again, we were looking at relevant experience. Project approach was another thing that we were scoring upon. Again, the responses varied greatly. We had some that would give us very good detail about their thought process. When we asked them for a project, they went through their process of developing a scope of work, meeting with us to refine that scope of work before they prepared their man-hour estimate. And then, of course, from the man-hour estimate, you get the price using their unit rates that they had agreed to in their contract. Others were less detailed, maybe lacked that detail, and just spoke to their general process of contracting and their contract documents. So again, we had very varying responses. I mentioned price again briefly. For each of the 12 categories, the selection committee came up with a theoretical project, a roadway project, for example, or a renovation of a building, as we just saw. We put a kind of our thinking caps on and came up with a reasonable timeline, the number of hours that the project manager would spend on the job, the draftsman, the design, the structural engineer, the geotech, that sort of thing. And then we used that same project and used everybody's unit prices so that we were able to compare prices apples to apples. It was the only fair way we thought we could do that. So with 12 categories and 20 submittals, it was each member of the committee had 240 scoring sheets that they put together, and then we compiled all of those scoring sheets in to an Excel spreadsheet matrix, which is included in your package, to come up with our scoring for the firms that we were selecting. We initially started by saying we were going to select the top 3 in each category. Even though we're doing this process, it wouldn't eliminate the need to select 3 people to give us price quotes so that we could come to before you. The procurement process is not circumvented by this. We still come to you when we exceed a certain dollar amount and request you to approve the selection of one of 3 firms. But what it did do is it just cut out the 90 to 120 days prior to that with the interview process and the preparing of the proposal, et cetera, et cetera. So we started with the top 3, then a little bit of logic set in, and we looked at, well, this firm was top 3 in several categories, but this particular service is kind of sister to this other service, and it would be a shame to not give them this service as well because the 2 are interrelated, such as remodeling and structural engineering. And I keep going back to the example I just showed you. So objectively, not just by the numbers, but objectively, we did select the 4th, the 5th, or sometimes even within the top half services from different firms so that we had a competent team that could give us full service on our particular type of projects. And so with the, and you'll see that in the package, there is these very colorful table, Excel spreadsheet table with orange and red and gray and green and blue. That is our selection of the firms, and it'd be impossible for me to try to read all of those, but I will just generally tell you amongst the 20 participants, the firms that were selected for some, if not all, services we were asking for. That's Kimley Horn, Black & Veatch, Atlas, Pittman Engineering, Cogdell, Mandarati Architects, CHA, Pond, Coleman Company, Thomas & Hutton, Alliance, Greenline Architecture, Hussey Gay Bell, W.K. Dixon, and Roberts Civil Engineering. And again, those were not for all 12 categories, but that table tells you which categories that they were selected for. I wanted to go through all that just to explain how complicated and thought was put into this selection. It was not gone into lightly. Not every firm that's selected in every category got everything they wanted, and some firms that were submitted did not get anything in this. But from this, we'll have a good, I call it the pitching bench. We'll have a good bench to call from when we need services, and we'll be able to streamline the awarding of design projects and get a lot of our T-SPLOST and other projects going here within the next couple of months. Recommendation is to go with alternative one, which is referring to that colorful matrix I just explained to you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If we approve that this is for FY 2022,
Yes.
and what happened between now and 2022? Can anybody bid on the jobs? That just goes back to these that you selected.
You're talking about, well, FY fiscal year 2022 starts July 1st.
Okay.
We currently do not have, we do have some stuff that's out for bid right now. That stuff will continue. I do not have any new projects to advertise between now and June 30th.
Okay, so this run out in July of 2022, right? This agreement.
June 30th.
June 30th, 2022. Yes, sir. Now, we will put in the contract, which we always do, just like the McGrailey one you just did earlier. We did put in there that we could do up to, I think, 2 extensions. 2 extensions. So we could potentially extend this 3 years if we chose to.
I got another question.
Sure.
In this next year, whenever we agree to this, no one else can bid on any jobs that we come up with. In other words, these people y'all selected is locked in for the next year.
On this contract, I think we always have the ability to put it out on the street and advertise if we choose
That's
to.
what I want to know. Are y'all going to put it out on the street for anybody to bid on it? Or you don't just pick the people that y'all have agreed to do these jobs?
To be truthful, the intent is to use the IDC as much as possible for design services. But if there was a project of particular complexity that we felt like the IDC contractors would not be suitable for, we could put it out on the street for advertising.
But if you think they qualified, you're not going to put it out to the general public.
Correct. My understanding is,
I understand what he's saying, but I don't think that's exactly right. But anyway, I think the general public, I might want to go into construction business, and I can't bid on nothing for the county for the next year.
Well, this is for design services only. This isn't construction services.
I understand
So
that.
we haven't done that for
one of the
construction.
one of the purposes, we had a workshop and we talked about doing this.
I'm just saying,
I got you, I understand.
all the people that are used for the next year is the people that they have already picked, unless they come up with something and the people cannot do it, they're not going to advertise any bids for the next year on these
We're not going to
projects.
advertise within this IDM, but let me make sure I understand what they're saying here tonight, based on our workshop and what they're proposing for us to approve. We know with the T-SPLOST, in our SPLOST, we have dozens and dozens of projects. What this was an attempt to do, every time we bid out a design, you had to go through like a 90-day vetting of the engineers to design this. our design engineers. And so we're consolidating into one vetting for the next year so that we have that, because we got so many projects to do, it would delay using the T-SPOS and getting the turnaround that we want for our constituents. So that's why this is here, understood. So we have this one vetting of all the engineers, finding which one's good at the civil, which one's good at the architectural or whatever. And so we have those already, and then among those 3 or 4, they will be able to make sure we get a competitive price. So everyone in the county that has a business now has had the opportunity to weigh in for that service. The same way they would have if we were bidding each individual design out individually. So this is to help streamline a little bit for the next couple of years, because we have a lot of T-SPOS and a lot of infrastructure. And I think that's why we considered it, and that's why we approved this process for our staff to move forward with that caveat. Give us those top 3 so we have some input.
So it'll still be bid.
Yes, they'll be bidding
those
against
3 top tier.
And everybody had a chance to bid on all the projects by giving their information to the engineers. So the
Is
same
that,
thing.
is that true? It would still be bidded, but within the top tier people that.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so somebody just can't say, okay, this is 120 hours, well, and then inflate those hours because they got your hourly pay.
Right.
Now, I like the idea, it's a streamlined thing, but the 2 things I'd like to change. One thing is, or one thing to add, one thing to change. I would not like to do an extension, I'd like to get that redone every year. The reason being is we got a new upcoming firm, like Loper Incorporated, he's becoming an engineer, he's not gonna have a chance to get in here if he's gonna stay 3 years.
You can't get in there.
Yeah, but they need that opportunity. And number 2, is something added on to the small business person. You know, well, how can they get on board with something? Maybe they don't have 25 years of experience in utility, but they got 5, you know, and they're work hard, they do a good job. You know, how can we help those guys, help out the little guy? And it's not all about the big business, but it's a mixture of both. You know, you want the expertise and everything. I don't think as a county we want to ignore our local entrepreneurs that are trying to make it, and, you know, they get a shot at this.
And this was a qualification-based selection, so we did have several local firms, small and large, bid on this. This was open opportunity to, if you want to do design work for Effingham County for the next 12 months, 24, 36, whatever, this is your opportunity. We had several submit as standalones as the prime, and we had several team with other firms as the sub. So even though you might not see their name on here, there are several local firms embedded in this as sub-consultants to these teams. What you're seeing is the prime consultant's name, the lead consultant. So there was plenty of opportunity for that competition, and it was qualification-based selection. And I say that again because price and, you know, that wasn't a factor in any of this. I mean, it was when we did the 10% cost thing on the unit prices, but it was supposed to be, are you qualified? Do you have experience? Do you have the education? Do you have the capacity and the number of people in your firm to do the job for us?
So what you're saying is the criteria that you use would allow for a young firm?
Yes, it did. Yes, sir.
That's right. I don't think I have a problem with the extension possibility. I'd like to see it redone. You have new people come on and have an opportunity.
Tim, you might want to address that, because that's a good question.
Well, I mean, it is 1 year.
It's extendable for 3.
But it's extendable to 3, but it's extendable by the board. And so this is one of those things that we can begin to take a look at towards, we can judge folks' performance, take a look to see if, like, maybe we don't think the bench is deep enough, and that we could potentially look at options for adding candidates in certain categories, not all categories.
Certain candidates who didn't do so good. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that I know you have put a lot of hours into this. I hate to redo the whole thing every year, but it seemed like you could just evaluate the performance of the ones who were on the list, and then open up, and you might get 3 or 4 more that want you to evaluate them versus the 60 we just evaluated. Just evaluate those 3.
Next July, you need to send out some more bids just like you did this time. And you might have some other people that can come in there and take those people's jobs. If you don't just qualify these people, and they don't do all the work for the county for the next 3 or 4 years unless we change it. And that's not right.
Maybe qualify a certain few of them that would be able to apply and get in without doing automatic extension. I mean, I see what you're saying. Things get forgotten over a year. And
Right.
this thing might come up and just slide right through it, and our tickets are lost. It happens all the time.
But ultimately, we do control it, and I've got a pretty good suspicion when they ask for approval of the engineering list again, one or two of us is gonna say, did you give an opportunity for new engineers to be considered? And have you evaluated your past engineers and removed any, people who didn't do so well? So that's gonna be a little bit on us to make sure, and I think we can do that. Like tonight, we heard the approving engineers, our engineers go up. I'm just reminding you of our discussion about why we're doing it. It's not to circumvent the process, but we do have to do kind of.
And also, if they prove to do well, we'll probably stick with it like we've done before. We just approved the LaGrady contract, we didn't open it up to bid for anybody else. They're satisfied with their work.
So in 9 or 10 months, we'll open up for qualifications for other small businesses.
Yeah, well, I think what we would probably
So
do
in
in
that
that
extension
case
period, we'll have that information.
yeah, is discuss it with the board, give staffs kind of experience with the, because some of these categories we're not going to dive into that often. So it may not come up, it may not be worthwhile, because once you open it up, you basically have to eliminate the current list that you have. But on some of the larger categories, civil engineering, utility work, that sort of thing, based on our experience, and we will have experience in this coming year on roads, water, sewer, structural engineering, all of that with these projects coming up, that we're going to be able to come up with a basis on how we think we need to make adjustments for the following year.
Well, I think this is a good start on this process to help streamline a lot of those projects coming up, and I'm sure this is something we can mold over time and definitely have more conversations on.
And one other point I'll say too is that traditionally when we put these bids out, we were really only getting like 3 or 4 folks to come in on these projects, and stuff was just kind of going to the same folks over and over again. I mean, we've really now deepened our bench so we could start spreading things around to other firms as well, and still get that competitive pricing that we wanted to for this year, and then take a look for any recommendations at the end of the year.
Okay.
As far as Mr. Loach said, maybe 9, 10, 11 months before we get to the new fiscal year, we could consider it. Sounds good. So I don't know that we need to recommend any changes to the current contract since we control the renewal of that contract by this board. I'm going to ask first for a motion to approve alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And it carries. Now, I know you got another item, Mr. Eric. There's several items that you have, and it's 6 o'clock.
I got you.
So in fairness to good folks that come for public hearings, I'm going to, we'll finish with 7, 8, and we'll skip down to number 15, and we'll come back to the new business. Remember, we're meeting number 9 through 14, and we'll have a labor across the license. So, we need a 5-minute break we're going to take a 5-minute break for a restroom break. We're here for the public hearings. Don't discourage, I'll try to gather everybody back in just a few minutes, okay? 5-minute break. If the board will pay you back by 10 after, that'd be great. back into regular session and begin our public hearings tonight. Everything's back on, Zoom is good. Okay. All right, the first item of the public hearing tonight is the planning board recommends approving an application by Brittany Hagan and Dustin Revlin to rezone 2.532 acres out of 15.94 acres located at 1760 Sand Hill Road from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of a home site. This is map number 300, parcel number 2 in the first district. To hear from my staff and then go to the public hearing.
Yes, the applicant plans to create a parcel that's 2.532 acres in size, and that parcel, because it's less than 5 acres, must be rezoned from AR1 to AR2, and that is the proposed parcel. They're split out from the parent parcel, which is the 15.94 acre parcel. So the remainder will stay AR1, and the small new section will be AR2.
Very good, thank you. We'll open the public hearing and see if there's anyone who would like to speak for this rezoning. Anyone not speaking in favor? Anyone tonight speaking in opposition to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and I'll see if there's any questions or a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion we approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette. All to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. So we'll move to our second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Brittany Hagan and Dustin Graveler to rezone 2.532 acres out of 15.94 acres located at 1760 Sand Hill Road from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of a home site map number 300, parcel number 2 in the first district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously. Move to item number 3 of the public hearing. Planning board recommends approving an application by Whitney Pippin to rezone 1.44 acres located at 1425 Noel C. Conway Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the combination of adjacent parcel, map number 375E, parcel number 19 to 20 in the second district. Here from our staff, and we'll look at the public hearing.
Yes, so these are 2 existing parcels which are together 1.44 acres. They're currently zoned AR1, and that's just a kind of artifact of, I guess, when zoning was adopted and lots of all sizes became AR1. And so the applicant wanted to combine the parcels and presented us with this plat, and we were unable to sign it because it's creating a non-conforming lot. Even though it's non-conforming now, it's legal, it's a grandfathered lot, but by combining them, they're changing boundary lines, and we have to bring it up to full compliance and present it to AR2. And at 1.44 acres, it's perfectly fine size in AR2, so that's the proposal. Staff and planning board recommend approval.
Understood. Okay, is it, we'll look at the public hearing. Anyone tonight speaking for this rezoning? Seeing no one, anyone speaking in opposition to this rezoning tonight? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain any questions or a motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Whitaker to approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously. Item number 4, consideration of the second reading. Second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Whitney Pippin to rezone 1.44 acres located at 1425 Noel C. Conway Road, AR1 to AR2 to allow for the combination of adjacent parcel of map number 375E, parcel number 19 and 20 in the second district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that carries unanimously. Item number 5, under public hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by Matthew Crouch for a variance located at 171 South Effingham Plantation Drive to reduce the required sidewalk setback, to reduce the required side setback for an accessory structure from 10 feet to 5 feet. This is zone R1, it's map number 375F, parcel number 36 in the 2nd district. We'll hear from our staff and we'll open the public hearing.
So in this case, the driveway is existing, and it's located about 5 feet from the property line. And at this point, the applicant wants to construct a shop or accessory structure, as you see there, just at the end of the driveway, which would place it about 5 feet from the side property boundary. And so he's asking for a variance to allow that. The requirement is 10 feet from the side property line, but in this case, in order to keep the proposed structure in line with the existing driveway, he's asking to get a variance from our setback requirements.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing and see if there's anyone tonight that would like to speak in favor of this variance.
So everything that was said is correct. The only thing I'd like to add is I do have a letter from the adjacent owner, Michael and Leah, and they have no objection to it.
That's in your packet.
Okay. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone tonight else speaking for this variance? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this variance request? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and I'll see if there's any questions or motion on the board.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1 with planning board staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1 with planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carries. We have the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Matthew Crouch for a variance located at 171 South Effingham Plantation Drive to reduce the required setback for an accessory structure from 10 feet to 5 feet. Zone R1, map number 375F, parcel number 36 in the 2nd district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. So you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7 under the planning board, public hearings. The planning board recommends approving an application by Keith Turner to rezone 5.05 acres out of 17.90 acres located at 2339 Hosner Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision, map number 436, parcel number 2 in the 2nd district. We'll hear from our staff and then we'll open a public hearing.
So the proposal here is to split a total of 5 acres off the 17, but it will be into 2 different lots. One will be just over 4 acres, one will be a little over 1 acre. And this is the proposal. So there's a yellow outline of the 4 acre and then the 1 acre is in the corner there. There'll be an access easement to the rear portion of the property. Because the 2 parcels are both below 5 acres, they need to be rezoned to AR2. Staff and planning board recommend approval.
Anyone here tonight speaking for this request? I don't know if you want to listen to this guy or not.
I hear that a lot.
He looks shifty to me.
I guess I'm here for approval and any questions that you might have. I'm Keith
You
Turner.
identify yourself, please, Mr. Keith.
Say that again?
You can identify yourself for the clerk.
I'm Keith Turner.
And you're the owner of the property.
I am the owner of the property, yes.
Any questions or discussions for Mr. Keith right here at the podium? Okay. Anyone tonight that would like to speak in opposition to this rezoning? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion or to approve.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Very good. We'll do the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Keith Turner to rezone 5.05 acres out of 17.90 acres located at 2339 Hoswell Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision map number 436, parcel number 2 in the second district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burnett, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously. Got it. Item number 9, the public hearings. The planning board recommends denying an application by Mitchell & Son Trucking LLC to rezone 19.27 acres located on Highway 21 North from AR1 to B3 to allow for a future trucking business. This is map number 289, parcel number 6A in the 3rd district.
So this is the business that was displaced when we rezoned property on Call Road for Dollar General, for what would be the Dollar General there just off Highway 21. And there was a trucking company that was parking there, but this is that company, and they have sought for months to find landing somewhere in Effingham County that was within their price range and that was either the appropriate zoning or that they could rezone. And so they found this property on North Highway 21 and are asking for it to be rezoned to B3 to accommodate their truck parking business. And this is a sense of the location in relation to Springfield. It's about 13 miles up 21. It is a bit far out there, but 21 is a state highway and is would be compliant with our truck route ordinance. So for any trucks, at least they would be going directly onto a road that is designed for truck traffic. The applicant proposes a metal building and a parking area for trucks, and this is just a simple sketch plan that they provided. They are prepared to accommodate the buffer requirement, which is 30 feet between commercial property and AR zone properties around it. So just going back, this is the aerial, and I think it does accurately display what is there right now. So the foliage that's currently there, I mean, at least 30 feet or more that would have to remain as far as the buffer, and then additional buffers would have to be planted along the side to meet our buffer requirements. Site development plans will have to include provision for stormwater runoff and avoid any negative impacts on neighboring properties. And as you said, the planning board recommended denial based on neighborhood input on this from local property owners. Staff has recommended approval based on its proximity to a state highway or its location on a state highway.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Is anyone like speaking in favor of this item? Rezoning?
I represent Mitchell & Sons Trucking Company, and we've been in business now for about 15 years. You know, we don't mean no harm to the environment or anything like that, but it's a lot of companies along Highway 21 in between the neighborhoods and everything like that. The residents have complained about another business in the area, but it is along a lot of businesses along that area in between residential houses. What we propose to do is we have dump trucks. We have 10 dump trucks and we have 3 trailer dumps. What we are planning to do is, you know, park our trucks there, not, you know, haul back and forth. We are planning to park our trucks there. That's the main goal. We also would like to build a metal building. That way we can have offices, you know, for staff and to build a shop. That way he can work on his trucks there. We also wanted to have like a gas station so our trucks can fill up there versus having to fill up way in Rankin or Garden City. So that's the plan that we have. We've been in business now for 15 years. We're a small company. We're an honest company. That's all I got to say.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else?
Do we ask questions now? Or?
Yeah, you can ask questions. One of the commissioners, if you
say
come back
you're
to the
gonna
mic, come back to the mic. This man, one of the commissioners would like to ask you a question.
Sure. You will have gasoline storage on site? I mean, what kind of quantities are we, this isn't for the public, this is just for your trucks?
This is just for my trucks, okay? Another company similar to ours is Lane Lee. We're in business with them, and our company wants to do exactly what they have done. They got like a gas container of diesel that is just for their trucks. So that's what we're planning to, that's what we were hoping to do. But it's just for our trucks. It's hard with these trucks. You know, you have to lease land, and then sometimes the lands that you lease, they want you off their property because then they sell their property to a business. So, you know, we have been looking to buy property so we can, you know, have our own land and don't have to worry about leasing and getting off other people's property. So.
Another question? No. We may have some more in just a minute, but we're good for now.
Okay.
Anyone else speaking for this rezoning tonight? Anyone here speaking in opposition to this rezoning? Okay. If you come up one at a time and state your name and what your opposition is.
My name is Sean Lockhart. I own about 30 acres in proximity to this piece of land here. Is actually in that picture you had up earlier. Mine is at the bottom there on the corner of Lorenzo and 21. I'm not really in opposition. I guess my only question is, if you're going to have fuel, what type of storage is it? And what kind of measures are going to be implemented to, I guess, contain if it was a spill? Or, you know, how is that? Is it going to be like a gas pump? Is it going to be something like what would be on a farm, you know, a 100-gallon tank, or what? Just questions, I guess, is what I have. And how's that going to impact the traffic on 21 pulling out? I know it's a pretty wide highway, so I don't know if that's going to be the route they're going to head south or north. Really just those questions is what I'd like to hear from the board.
Okay.
That's all I have.
We may not be able to answer, but maybe the applicant.
Right, that's what I was kind of wanting y'all to ask her.
Yeah, so we'll come back to these questions. I may just go ahead and see what other opposition we have, and we'll have a backup to explain some things for us. Anyone else speaking in opposition to this tonight or any objections?
My name is Beverly Scott, and I reside at 4414 Georgia Highway 21 North, Springfield, Georgia. This is a residential community. The families living in this area are close-knit. We care about the matters and concerns of each other. My grandparents, Pearl Davis and Pauline, moved here in 1935. They were farmers. This is an agricultural, residential AR1 community. We can only imagine what a trucking business will do to our community. The noise, air, water, and land pollution. My sister owns land adjacent to the property in question. She has reserved this land for her children and grandchildren to build their homes there. Who wants to live next to a trucking company? In our community, there is no city water, no city sewage. We have deep wells. We have environmental concerns about the safety and health of our water systems with oil, diesel fuel, and other contaminants spilling on the ground. Commissioners, I would like to quote your mission statement to you. It is the mission of the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to provide, through highest integrity, a county government which will ensure our citizens a safe and healthy environment to encourage and promote a high quality of life. On behalf of my family and neighbors, we object to the property be rezoned due to environmental safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition?
Hey, my name is Michelle Tedesco. I'm the owner of the 2 fields to the bottom right of the parcel in question, 2 elongated fields. I just want to point out, in case some are not familiar, these photographs are old. So right now, the property directly behind the parcel in question has a house on it. My field behind the parcel in question is going to have a house on it, and the last parcel that's kind of below that field has a house on it. So the parcel in question is completely surrounded by residential homes behind it and also completely along Highway 21. So I'd like to just paraphrase the Effingham County Development Plan. This is current. It says that the county should strive for consistent development type and characteristics within similar land use areas, and that the county should discourage the establishment of industrial or commercial land uses near existing residential areas. So again, pointing out the parcel is completely surrounded by homes. I, like a lot of people here, have purchased land, come down here for the peace, the agricultural environment, with the intent to build a home with my family, my mother, retire here, just like my fellow residents. And I've invested a considerable amount of money to preserve the agricultural aesthetic that is Effingham County. That's why we're here, including keeping utilities underground, investing in native plants to redevelop the field, and having a truck parking lot next to that doesn't fit the area. Now, I understand it's Highway 21, but there are other areas along Highway 21 that are more or less wrecked or disturbed by industrial development. This is not a segment of Highway 21 that's like that. It's all residential. So aside from the environmental concerns, just please keep in mind that this is very much an established residential community. And many of my neighbors are here today. So, thank you.
Anyone else speaking in opposition to this rezoning request?
Good evening, my name is Robert Ramoser. My family owns 289-6 Charlie, the lower portion of your map up here, the large clear area and the other clear area up on 21. We personally, or just recently purchased and built a home here, brand new. And on GIS website I got from, shows all the residential areas around said property. Now, looking up your 2020 to 2040 Joint Comprehensive Plan, as was mentioned, it was signed 24th October 2019. Page 38 says future land use. The county and cities should discourage the establishment of intense or heavy industrial or commercial land uses near existing residential areas. The county and city should not allow more intense development in areas not served by public water and sewer. Non-sewered areas should be limited to less intensive land uses. And I'm not sure how this is going to be considered business or industrial, but again, on page 39 of the same document, it states that industrial is for land dedicated to manufacturing facilities, processing plants, factories, warehousing, and wholesale trade facilities, mining or mineral extraction activities, or other similar uses. Okay, then if we go to residential on page 40, it says the predominant use of land within the residential category, which I feel this is for single-family, multifamily dwellings, units organized into general categories of net densities. The land use is not or is protected from encroachment of industrial or other uses capable of adversely affecting the residential character. So I just ask that, based off of what I have as someone that lives in the community and new to this area, and this is your plan, I ask that you deny this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Nelson. Anyone else speaking in opposition? You want to hear whatever you have to share tonight, but we are very familiar with the plan, so we can cover a lot of what you're saying. So if that's your objection, you can just reference that. If so, I because we want to get all the objections in.
You guys heard it 3 times already. I'm not going to do it again. All right, so my name is Thomas Morrison. My family purchased the property at 4201 North Highway 21. It borders 3/4 of the property that's in question. Specifically, our property is a little bit lower. So all water drain off comes to the center of our property right now. It's been a real problem with rows since we've already put 1 home on the property. With the goal of putting 2 to 3 more homes on the property, this property was purchased for myself, my family to kind of come together and retire together. I'm also in the construction industry. We do dirt work, concrete, we work with dump trucks all the time. There is no quiet dump truck. There is no dump truck that doesn't make a mess. That's not a thing. If they're putting a metal building for use of a shop to do mechanic work or oil changes or fueling, the environmental impact that the surrounding properties are put at risk of is great, especially those of us that don't have any type of city water. We don't have any type of city utilities. We are dependent on those wells. You know, that's, many of us, we grow on our property. We have livestock on our property. The land is why we are there. And the integrity of the land is what's in question for us, as well as our peace. But, and of course, you know, we talked about the zoning and the ordinance. This is all AR1, residential, single family. This is clearly spot zoning if it's zoned commercial.
Okay.
That's all I
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else speaking in opposition tonight?
Hello, my name is Blake Kessler, and I own some land in the area, but really primarily tonight I'm speaking on behalf of my parents, Buzzy and Wanda Morgan, who owned a significant amount of land in this area. And they use that land for agricultural purposes. My stepdaddy, Mr. Buzzy, he farms cattle for a living. So we own cattle that are grazing this area. And the runoff is a big concern. The pollution is a big concern. The increased traffic is a big concern. Hay is cut here, cotton is grown here, peanuts are grown here, all in areas that belong to my family that are right adjacent to where this proposed trucking business would be. And all that is a major concern. I don't want to repeat a lot of what's already been said. I will just say a trucking business in this area of Highway 21 would stick out like a sore thumb. There would be no consistency in zoning if this were allowed. Thank you.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition to this request tonight? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing with discussion among our board, and then we'll have some questions for the applicant as well. I want to clarify something for myself. Wasn't it not too long ago that someone north of the businesses that are there now made an application and we denied that application?
Yes.
That's my remembrance, but for the very reasons I'm here tonight is that we want to push those to the commercial areas. I understand the issue and the need for the parking and the truck, but I want to encourage our staff, once you open to a B3, it's just say it was just parking the truck there. But it opens the opportunity for a repair shop and other things that could come in if that property got sold. And so I think we need to be more conscious to not just the state highway, but look at all those things that we've been talking about in previous zoning denials, north of those businesses that are there, to consider pushing those businesses closer to, as the comp plan says, into the commercial areas or close to those areas. There are some roadways on number 21, 17 that I can see are going to be commercial, that for you out there today, they're AR1, but you ought to know that if you're getting close to a city and it's a 4-lane highway, you might want to check into a little detail about if it could be some commercial in the future. But when you get this far up above, I would encourage the board to, I'm going to say deny this application because I think we are pushing commercial way too far out from the city limits, and it defeats the things we've been talking about. So that's my fault, but I'm hoping to go to questions and discussion from the board.
I agree with you 100%, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your comments. Yeah, I don't think this fits our comprehensive plan at all. It's about 14 miles north of the city. I was actually, the road, with the map up there earlier, I was actually riding my Ranger over the weekend down Morgan Road. And this is very residential area, farming. As the chairman mentioned earlier, we have denied some others going up that way. I think that's kind of getting too far out, definitely for B3 with a trucking company. And I won't go any further, but I agree with the planning board on denial.
I think that's when we have our comp plan too, so we don't have to revisit this. We know the areas where we should be looking for those. And I'm looking at all the individual, there's like 1 and 2 acre tract lots on the other side of the road as well. So I appreciate the applicant's issue, concern, and I pray you find a good location to park those trucks. But I think we would not be consistent with our previous decisions, and we want to be consistent if we were to open that corridor tonight. So anyway, any other discussion, board?
I want to point out, you know, when they were there before in my district, they were operating against our zoning at that point. They didn't have a conditional operating trucking company in that spot, and they were operating in that spot. And I hate to see it continue on with fuel and everything. This is more of an industrial use. You know, I'm in that space. It's tough. It's hard to find land. It's costly. It's hard work. I get it. There are industrial pieces out there you have to go after.
Yeah, matter of fact, we have a lot of industrial land in this county. You might want to check with some of those folks and see what you can work out with them. We've talked about that a lot. We're trying to see how we can maybe not have so much more industrial land in our county, so we have more boundaries of commercial property, but we need it closer to our city areas, or to find a new commercial area and develop it so everybody understands and is on board with that. So we're going to be looking at that. But with that, I'm going to see if there's a motion to deny this request.
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Burdette to deny the request. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And we're going to deny that tonight. Okay? So that will relieve the need for the second reading. And we wish you the best and hope you can find a place to park those trucks and continue in business. We're not trying to hurt your business at all. We're going to go to item number 11, which is a public hearing. The planning board recommends approving the application by Ashley A. Morgan to rezone 1.49 acres out of 13.50 acres located at 1935 Mario Kilgore Road from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of a home site map in the 381 parcel in the 32 of the 3rd district.
I'm Ashley Morgan, and I ask for a recommendation on this property.
We'll hear from our staff and then we'll open the public hearing.
The applicant is planning to recombine a portion of one parcel, parcel 3812, and with an adjacent parcel, and then subdivide 13.5 acres into 2 parcels. So it's a little bit, we're combining with one and then recombining. So it's sort of complicated, but if you study this long enough, you can actually.
But it complies with AR2. That's the big key. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Is there anyone else speaking for this rezoning tonight? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this rezoning tonight? Does your wife want to speak in opposition? All right, seeing no one speaking in opposition, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Leffler to approve alternative 1 in staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And it passes. We do our second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Ashley A. Morgan to rezone 1.49 acres out of 13.5 acres located at 1935 Clio Kildare Road from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of a home site, map number 381, parcel number 32 in the 3rd district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And it carries. That's good. All right, that concludes our public hearings tonight. We have some agenda items we had to look over. Let's go back and see if we open the number real long, see if we can knock those out before we ask for executive session. Let's see, item number 7. This is Mr. Larson again. Consideration to approve county staff to submit an application for fiscal year 2020 local maintenance improvement grant, safety action plan for mid-SAP funds.
Yes, sir. We were contacted by DOT with a list of priority roads that they recommended we consider for what is considered a roadway departure, high rate of roadway departure. So using their analysis, they came up with a list of roads that would qualify for using this LMIG SAP funding for FY21. One of the things that I want to point out is that this money has to be not spent, but it has to be I don't know what the word is, encumbered? Appropriated before June 30th, so we got to get it under contract before then. It's $200,000 match. If you look at the packet, there was a blue and white table that had the list of roads. We took the top 3 priorities that they had suggested, and we worked cost estimate up on those. That includes Ziegler Road, McCall Road, and Blue Jay Road. This consists of rumble strips on the edge, thermoplastic striping.
Considered Mott Road with those rumble.
Yeah. Thermoplastic striping, additional signage, the pavement markers, and we're going to probably put, what I'd like to do is put an add alternate into the bid for centerline rumble strip as well. So that's what we would spend the money on. It is a match if we get the grant that has a 30% match. The 3 roads have a combined total of $358 for estimated construction cost. Again, we'll have add alternate and deduct alternate on there to get it more in line with the $200,000 should you say you want to limit it to that amount. But the staff is recommending approval to submit the application for the grant funding in the amount of $200,000.
None of these improvements that we're recommending tonight will be negated by the T-SPOS construction that will probably take place in the next year and a half.
No, sir. I actually excluded those areas when I was calculating McCall and Blue Jay.
Because I know some of these, just like roads, we were going to do some work on. So
yeah. I specifically excluded those areas when I came up with the cost estimates.
Gotcha.
When you say road departures, is that like making a 3-lane at the end or 2-lane at the end for a turning lane, or is that?
No, this is simply people that have left the roadway. So the rumble strip and roadway and pavement markers, things that audibly or physically alert the driver that they're about to leave the road.
I noticed they were all in District 5. Is that just where all these the safety concerns are in that district?
No, they're different.
Or is that correct?
Okay.
No, it's these were GDOT scored them, and these were the 2 highest, and I forget where the third one was, but we didn't have enough money to leave the third
They're
one.
all District 5. They're not all District 5.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Oh, they're not District 5. Oh, that's right, because one of them is Ziegler.
I always ask this. I just haven't-
One of them is District 1. Yeah.
It just shows all District 5. That's an error on this report, probably.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, technically, this is McCall, this could be McCall all the way from 21 to 21, so,
I'm covering about 3 districts.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just read that out.
Looking out for you people. That's good. Okay, anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
Any questions? So the motion to approve alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. The next item is a discussion item, and it'd probably be good to, I maybe not get a copy, ask some questions about that. Did you give me a copy of that report? Because I left mine at the house that way. Do we have a copy?
Is it in here?
It's in the
We're
packet.
going to have a brief discussion that
Yeah.
Mr. Eric carries through the solid waste development plan.
Yes, sir. So what's in your packet is a copy of the draft plan. And to back up 1 second, or just a few months here, as you see in the staff recommendation, the last time we did a solid waste plan of any kind was in 2007. considering potential future, considering potential future needs for solid waste services and the location and sizing of any landfills that might potentially be required to serve future needs, we felt like it was important to update the plan. This was commissioned and put together to go in conjunction with the items on the agenda that were postponed for tonight. But we went ahead and left it on the agenda because this really is just an introduction to explain that we are working on a solid waste plan. We will be having a public meeting on it as required to get the plan approved. The commission will be having a vote on this at some point in the future, and you will see this plan in a final form. Really the purpose of me providing you the draft is so that you can see the direction the plan is going in. You see the table of contents, you see the data that they're looking at, you can see the analysis that they intend to perform, ultimately to give us recommendations as a community of how we need to manage solid waste. And it's not just limited to siting the landfill, which is what the staff report mentions and what is the kind of the topic of the day, but it's everything from curbside, recycling, woody debris, recycled goods, the cans, the plastics, that sort of thing, paper. It really is a management plan for Effingham County, the cities within, looking not just beyond tomorrow, but 10, 20 years down the road of what our solid waste management needs are going to be. It looks at the region, it looks at the region's capacity to handle waste and where that's going to be ultimately disposed of. And it will give us some guidance on if we elected to make changes to our text amendment as referred to a second ago, what we might put in our code as safeguards so that we do it appropriately at the right scale and at the right location. And so beyond that, I'm going to not say much because there will be another opportunity to look at this. Just wanted to kind of give you an idea of the direction we're going in, as I said, and let you know that there is going to be additional opportunity for both public input and commission input before it's ever adopted or put into place.
What time frame are we looking at to get a completed report back from whoever's?
We should have it, current schedule is to have it by May 4th. But it may or may not make the May 4th agenda. As the chairman stated earlier, we're going to have probably a public meeting on solid waste management in general, where this could be a part of that.
I think we need to have it on this plan. I'd like to expand it.
Yes, yes.
To have a more full discussion.
But we need to have a public meeting before it's finally adopted. So there'll be a public meeting. Public comment will be solicited, it will be incorporated into the document, and then at a future meeting of commission after that, there would be, your resolution to adopt the plan.
Kurt, do you know if we, or Atlantic Waste, did they ever figure out what's going on with the recycling? I know at one point a couple of years ago, they really had no place to sell it anymore. Are we truly doing a recycling program at this point? Or did that ever back up? But I think China wouldn't accept anymore, and they had to find new places for it to
They
go.
wouldn't accept glass.
Yeah, glass and some other stuff. It's certain range of plastics.
The plan will be looking at recycling and the market of recycling. I can't answer your question specifically, but they will be addressing that in the.
Yeah, we've been just curious if they progressed or got better, or I know they had a hard time with it at one point. Kind of stuff just to make it regular trash for a lot.
Probably need to revisit that, see how we can reduce solid waste that has to be disposed of in landfill. I had some questions. I went through this thing and read it, and I left it in my office at the house. So
Well, you'll have.
I'll get with you in Vision and go over
Yes, sir.
questions, because then we can look at them at the next meeting maybe.
Sure. And the commissioners, you're all welcome to submit email questions to me. I'll forward them on to the consultant, and every attempt will maybe incorporate the needed response into the draft plan, so that when the final draft comes out for a public meeting where the public will consume the final version of the document and comment on it, we can already have your questions answered. If not, you'll have up to the night you vote on it to make comments and ask questions. And I'll have the consultant here for that public meeting. So.
And I really like, there's a lot of data still missing from this one.
Yes.
I'd like to have that before the meeting, so as soon as if they can give us that data and give us another draft with the data in it, that would be wonderful.
Right, we've received the data since this draft was given to me, and so they're incorporating that, and yes, we intend to have a final, complete document ready for vote when we have the public meeting, so it'll have everything in it.
I'd like to have that data in a draft document. Having a draft that's missing data is difficult for me to format all my questions.
Sure.
So I'd really like to see one that's supposedly a final, but still a draft, with the data before I get to the public hearing to discuss.
Yes, sir. There'll be an internal staff version for us to review and comment on, and I can make sure you get a copy of that.
Probably most everybody else would like to have a copy of that,
Sure.
I'm sure. Okay. I look forward to that discussion. Any questions for the chair?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. That's item number 8, we're going to move past 9 through 14, and go to item number 15, which is consideration to approve the list of vehicles to be leased through the enterprise program.
Sure. If the board recalls at a previous meeting, the March 16th meeting, we approved the contract for the essentially lease purchase of vehicles through the enterprise program. There was a limited opportunity, you can kind of see them through the what we purchased for the windows that were still open with manufacturers for getting some of those orders met this year. And so we are requesting approval to purchase the vehicles listed. They range from basically all different departments, but they were the low-hanging fruit when it came to replacement vehicles in the system. The total annual cost of the 26 vehicles, we split them up between sheriff and non-sheriff, is $123,384 for non-sheriff, and the annual lease cost on the sheriff's side of it, the 41 vehicles, $350,163. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
Any questions for our county manager? Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette Mr. Roach, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries unanimously. Item number 16, payment. Consideration to approve application and to affirm submittal of the required participation documentation to DCH to participate in the Georgia Medicaid FFS Ground Ambulance UPL Supplement Payment Program.
Good evening, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. So this is a little complicated. Tonight I just need your approval to ratify the submittal of the application. We're not certain that we're going to move forward with it, but we had a choice to make. It was due by March 31st, so we could submit the application and decide later to opt out, but we could not fail to submit the application and decide later to opt in. So we did submit the application so that we have time to review the program and see if we want to move forward. So staff is recommending approval.
Do we have any matching in this?
Well, it's complicated. So the way the program is working is it's a federal match. The state has a 25% match. The feds have a 75% match, and it's for the difference between what we currently get paid for Medicaid transports and the upper level, or the upper payment level, which the state will calculate for us. However, the state doesn't have appropriations for that, so in order for us to get the money, we have to send the state's portion to the state so that they can draw the match, and then they send it back. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, so that's why we did the application, so we could review it in more detail.
Well, I'm all for encouraging this board to approve it, and I'd like to know that we have the opportunity to revisit it when we know the cash match, because I don't want to see the staff, we're going to move forward with it, thinking that's a number that the board would be okay with, and we probably have a little input on that.
We wouldn't move forward without bringing it back to you.
I knew you wouldn't, but I thought I need to get on the record and just say it.
Yes, sir.
But I appreciate that. So that's not a concern, and if that's understood, then any other question, discussion, or entertain a motion?
Motion to approve alternative
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Any carries?
Thank you.
Number 17, consideration to approve a purchase order for the purchase of a patch truck from Reynolds Warren Equipment Company.
Yes, sir. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. In November, an RFQ was posted for the purchase of a patch truck for Public Works. One submittal was received at that time, but the price was above the budgeted funds available. So staff revised the scope to downgrade certain features and to try to add clarity to the need and hopefully lower the cost. In February of 2021, a second RFQ was posted and Reynolds Warren Equipment Company submitted a quote. The cost breakdown is included in your packets and staff is recommending alternative one.
You want to patch my road with this?
I will leave that to our very qualified Public Works Department to determine.
I was hoping to see a picture.
I hope you'll little more car road, I use my four-wheel drive to get up and down.
I have a feeling it will get a lot of use.
I'm sure.
I don't know if that patch truck, I don't think that thing worth what we have to pay for it. They would go down a little hole this big and they run it in wet weather and tar will not stick to wet pavement. They blow it out, and put a little tar in it, and put a little rock in it and move on to the next hole. When we bought the thing originally, I thought maybe it would work good, but if you had to operate it, it might. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a waste of money.
And maybe the operation of it, Mr. Reggie, was maybe the operation of it is the problem with it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know where potholes, I know where a bunch of them need to be fixed now. But they go down and I brought it up in one of our meetings one time, when EOM was here, because I was talking about it. They come there, I said, they'd been better off to let him stay in the office, and we just saving money. I brought that up here a couple months ago. And anyway, we had a fellow come and spoke to us about that same thing, because he watches it close. But they patched, there's a couple little holes there in front of my house, in front of my driveway, and they patched it today, and tomorrow it's gone again, so.
Maybe this never will fix that.
Huh? No, I know where a bunch of it's at. What I'm saying, I don't know if the thing is worth this way.
I don't know how else, there's so many potholes, how they could do it. I mean, they can't run around a pickup truck with, shovel asphalt.
The fix typically doesn't last.
Now, well, people usually complain because they say, you send that patch truck over there, but I need my road paved. And we don't have the money to pay the road.
I know where a bunch, and you have to call them, and they don't go around and check the holes. I mean, I call them all the time about that. I called them last week about the potholes that need to fix.
I hear you.
Sometimes they fix them, sometimes they don't.
Efficient way to
I
patch the holes.
continue to look at that issue, but I'm with you, I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it.
Bags of cold mix.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's efficiently patch the holes.
Efficient enough to do. So we probably just need to continue to look how we can be more efficient with our patch truck and do a better job, since Mr. Reggie's lifting that up tonight. But any other discussion? Is there a motion to approve alternative one?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve it. We'll try it again. Hopefully it don't rain. If it don't rain, we blow the water out of it. Tar won't stick to wet paper.
I'm with you.
It's terrible.
That would be second?
Yes. Yeah.
Second. Mr. Floyd? All right, motion by Mr. Logan, second Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Thank
And you have a patch truck. Better service on that patch
Just to see
truck, right?
this thing start.
That's right. All right. I believe that concludes our new business tonight. We'll go ahead and have the, you want to go into executive session, come back to your reports, we'll do the reports first.
I think we can do it first. It should be pretty quick.
Yeah, or if they're brief and quick, we do reports first.
I've got no report, Mr. Chairman.
That's pretty brief and quick. That was it.
And the only thing I have as your legislative coordinator, you are aware that legislative session has wrapped up. Check your email for the legislation that is in that final bill. You received it today.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll go around the horn. Mr. Reggie, anything for the board?
I know I'm good to go.
I'm good.
Okay.
Just a couple things, short, McCall, the shoulders, and just falling apart. It's attention there, especially when you turn on the Blue Jay, that little left.
Yes, okay.
There's a hole.
With that, could you address his question also? Where are we at on that curve that's supposed to be through there?
Yeah.
Timing is good on that. So we, because that was a T-SPOS project, we already put, because the engineering had been done on that in advance, we were able to put that out for bid. I think that's going to be on the next agenda, the award on that. And so I believe the engineer's pre-bid estimate was at like a 1.4, came in at 1.1, so we're very good on that.
And that's just the bend?
That's just the bend. However, in the T-SPOS, we included a total of 1.7 because we were $1 million because it was also for the intersection at the other side of the tracks. So what you turn in there, we want to try and figure out how to do a turn lane. That's going to require some engineering, so we're going to have to patch it for now to get it just to get it stable.
It's all along there, but obviously not the bigger areas, but the shoulders are just crumbling.
Well, and honestly, I do want to take a look at McCall prior to the striping to see if we're going to start striping, if there's anything that we could patch up in advance, because we're going to be putting rumble strips on it. We want to make sure we have something there to etch into. So I'm not quite sure. We're looking into the extent of the safety grant, and then maybe get our new patch truck out there in advance. Well, actually, our patch truck's going to take a while to get here. We'll get our old patch truck out there to try and fix it up before they start doing that work. What is that?
The patch truck out there, the new one?
No, we're going to have to get the old one out there. It's going to take us some time to get the new one.
Call Park for bids.
Yes, we've got a schedule on that. Allison, McCall Park?
Yes, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Just the schedule on it. Can you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Before it, too.
We're in the process of that bid now. Questions are due next week, I believe. The addendum will be the following week, and bids are due mid-May, I believe. I don't remember the exact date, but
And we did a vendor on-site
yes.
visit on Monday or Tuesday?
Last Friday.
Last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I was close.
Yeah.
So
I think we had...
It's in the process.
Close to 10-ish different...
Bring out T-Spots if you wanted to do like a little schedule of things that I think's changed rapidly since we were able to go forward and do the loan and everything. Get some time to shoot us a little schedule of what's occurring. Because I had a lot of people ask me, I know this was on the schedule, when's it going to happen? And I'm like, we're working on it, we've got, our staff is proactive and the commission was proactive, and we borrowed money instead of waiting on the funds. So, know we're working, but everybody's like, when.
Yeah, and so we'll get that, those first batches out to you. Eric met with EOM last week on that because we're going to combine it with this year's LNIC because it's the first one is going to be kind of your simple plain vanilla repaving of roads. And so we'll get that first list out to y'all so you see it before we actually, well before we award it to you, so you'll actually know that, tell your folks of what's coming.
Thank you. And the gun range, I think Stephanie had found something maybe we could adopt or somebody forwarded this somewhere.
What?
The gun range? Something got circulated.
And I think that's going to have to be in kind of a broader conversation with regards to as to where we're going with these rural business type things, because that was kind of tied in there. And so if you want to pare that down as a possibility, if you want to eliminate that concept completely, we will, because our original goal was to make that a very restrictive use in AR, because, you know, we've got one, you know, out in a hunting preserve or something like to that, you know, can't open up there because they're out of compliance, but they are clearly AR. And so that's kind of a broader conversation as to where those fit in to our zoning ordinance.
Let's start by somebody get proactive and look at what they've done. You know, it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. What are their requirements? How do they come upon what they're doing? How do they make it safe? And then just adopt some of that and up to the board to take a look at that. Is that just something we want, or we're going to make it more restrictive, or, you know, we're not going to reinvent everything?
And so right now, you know, we don't really, it's a conditional use in, do you remember? Is it AR1?
It's not. We treat it as a conditional use when we get applications.
We treat it as a conditional use, so, but we want to be able to put those additional restrictions and requirements on it.
Accept anything right now. That's the whole key of, you know, getting at least some kind of stipulation to know that when they have them out there, they really don't.
Right. So we are working on that as part of this kind of list of
One more thing, I'll shut up. I know you talked about in one of our workshops getting like a professional rezoning person or consultant, trying to go through that. We made some progress with that part of it, to revamp our system.
Yes, and I know, you know, that's one of the things, is it part of this IDC or no? No, okay.
No, we haven't started.
Okay, so we are looking at that. We just, with all these things that we're doing, the IDC and so on and so forth, that was a little bit, a few more things down the list, but that is something that we're going to be actively pursuing, I would imagine sometime this year.
Some of that might cure some of the ills we have now.
I agree with you 100%.
That's all I got.
Okay, have anything for us tonight? From other staff that's sat here so patiently? All right, then, I'm still having a need for executive session, so if you have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, property, and pending litigation.
So moved. I'll second.
Say, Mr. Loper, I heard so moved, so I'll let that second be over here, that's all right. Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We are in executive session. They both said aye, and then Mr. Loper said I'll second. Got a second. Motion from Mr. Loper. Two seconds.
And it was about
Yes, anyway, I want to listen.
Yeah, I figure why not. Trying to make it here and there. Sorry, I thought you were trying to talk to me. You were
intently, I was listening.
You made a facial expression or something, and I think you were trying to get my attention, and it just totally distracted me. And I was like, I was just off my stride. I was doing pretty good before I had to break for the 6 o'clock planning meeting. When I got back up there, I was like, I'm done with this. I'll sit down and say anything. It pissed me off. I was just like, I'm so done with this place.
My favorite bed was the
Sweating like a dog.
That's my favorite. I had to, yeah, we went on the for a full body scanner for the jail. I'm not gonna vote. I'm just saying, and I laughed, and I was like, she's gonna turn his words. And he heard me, and then she said it, and so he still did. It's the worst. I'm just the person reading my words. I can't. Keep saying it. I will say it. I will let public works know.